Hi, my name is Michał Grela, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of IT Leadership Insights by Future Processing. Today, we're going to talk about engagement models in IT partnerships. Historically, customers approach IT companies in order to simply hire bumps on seats or do the traditional old-school outsourcing, or so-called body leasing. Nevertheless, today, the industry moved and developed towards more partnership-based approach, and well, I can honestly say that today only law and creativity limits companies where it comes to different ways of working together with IT partners. And today my guest is Craig, who's probably done all of the possible options when it comes to engagement models with IT companies. Would you be so kind and tell something more about yourself, Craig?
My background in IT started about 20 odd years ago as a software developer. After that, I've gone through the various different roles, working my way through leadership and eventually ending up today as the CTO of a consultancy in the UK.
Thanks, it's great to have you here in this cozy library. I hope to have a very interesting conversation with you today. And we're going to talk about the different engagement models, and of course there's plenty of them with of the mentioned before the body shopping with hybrid teams, with onshore, offshore, with body leasing, with nearshoring, offshoring, with fixed price, time and materials, numerous opportunities. And of course, a part of being operationally agile is to also give customers this flexibility when it comes to choosing the right model, the engagement model. But of course, since everybody perceives these models to some extent differently, and there's definitely this clutter or bias when it comes to understanding, and some terms are used interchangeably. How would you describe the engagement model? What's it all about?
Okay, for me, the crux of the engagement model is the basis on which the two parties are working together. So trying to understand exactly where the lines of responsibility lie, who's got the authority to make certain decisions, what that might mean from a pricing perspective, which is obviously a piece of the engagement model, but a big piece is the working together, the authorities, the responsibility levels.
It's the governance as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Governance, how we're going to prove the deliveries, how frequently we might be engaging with each other on checking progress, etc.
And I recall that you have a long history of working with FP on different projects with different customers, and also using different engagement models. And at FP, of course, we also try to fit the model to what the customer expects. And you can, of course, start with some development teams. If you need engineering, you can move towards some bespoke solutions using the whole projects for building the whole projects, and of course add consultancy on top of it. There's plenty of options, obviously, but what did you cover?
So I mean, it's a question that's more easily asked than answered, I guess, because all of those different models that you touched on earlier, we've used a number of them over the years, probably all of them, and maybe even some more. We even invented models along the way. When we first engaged with FP, which is about 8 years ago now, the first one was a nearshore outsource team. Probably in our mind originally was a sort of body leasing or body shopping
old school
model. Yeah, the old school model. But what we liked about FP was the idea that there were people already here. It wasn't a special recruitment. It was people who were part of the FP culture already. So I like to use that term nearshoring rather than outsourcing, because for me it's that extension of a team.
There's more value in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you also covered different models.
We did. As we then progressed over time, so that we built that team out, but we had some specific projects that we needed to deliver. So we've used a fixed price model on occasion. There was a time when we used gain share, pain share, which was something we worked on together to work out. And then I've also used a number of other FP specialist team members in a consultancy capacity.
You've mentioned pension Geisha, but before we get into the sexy stuff, let's start with more basics. You've mentioned you work with FP and of course with presumably different other IT providers on time and material basis.
Yeah.
Can you tell something more? Can you tell us something more about the advantages and disadvantages of this sort of engagement model when it's the right fit?
Sure. So for me, the time and materials model fundamentally works when it's less clear exactly what the outcomes and needs might be. So you know you need resources, but you're unable in advance to perhaps specify all of the requirements in detail and reach a contractual agreement as to what the delivery outcome might be.
So there's a certain level of uncertainty.
Exactly. So that's where you might, that's where the time and materials model might work perfectly, because essentially it puts the control in the client's hands in terms of saying what they need from day to day, but they also know that budgetary-wise, they'll just need to commit to paying whatever that might need for the resources they need. So you might not quite have the certainty of budget.
And yeah, but well, when the scope is sort of being changed dynamically, then maybe that's the right fit. But
Absolutely.
is it something that you, as a customer, you would go for first-time outsourcing, or is it maybe too high level of entry when it comes to this uncertainty?
Well, I think the thing is, it really does depend on what the customer knows about their project and how much preparatory work they've done in advance. If you are, if you've got a strong in-house business analysis function, etc., and you're able to define some really well-defined requirements and so on, then then you don't need to go time and materials. But if you're trying to hit the ground running, you've come up with an idea, you get a team in place pretty quickly, and you just want to progress, then time and materials makes absolute sense. So yes, I tend to probably quite often start with time and materials. But for myself, I tend to run those as a nearshoring hybrid team. But so I do think it makes a lot of sense as a starting. It can make a lot of sense as a starting point.
You've also said that putting additional work at the very beginning of a project with business analysts on board, and the UX UI designers and having all stakeholders doing this discovery workshop is good for, as I understood, the fixed price model.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if you were able to do that work in advance, now you could use an outsourced partner to help you do that work. So you could do an initial time and materials piece where you delve into your requirements, you leverage the business analysis or project management capabilities, define the requirements, and once you know exactly what the requirements are, you could then go into a fixed price model where, because both parties are then very clear what the requirement and what the outcome looks like, the supplier can estimate it pretty well, and they can hang their hat on how long it'll take them to deliver it. A key advantage in that fixed price model is that for the client, it means that they've got certainty of budget. What you'd expect the supplier to do is to normally put a little bit of contingency or a premium on their price.
That's what I was about to ask you, because in fixed price models, you can expect that there must be a bit of a margin.
Absolutely, yeah. But that margin, as a client, it's worth paying that extra margin for the certainty in budget. Or as opposed to the alternative in a time and materials model where I don't have certainty of budget. So absolutely, I'd expect that premium to be in place, and a supplier who doesn't put that premium in place is
of course, everybody's working for money. So if there's no benefit or added outcome at the end of the day, then what's the point? But you've also mentioned hybrid teams. What do you mean about that?
Sure. It's a phrase that I tend to use. I'm not sure if I picked it up from someone else or whether I invented it at some point.
It rings a bell, so that might be in the industry functioning.
Sure. For me,
the hybrid... You invented it.
Maybe I invented it, yeah. But the hybrid team is where we're running in terms of the UK or the client, so myself in this example in the UK, I've got my team members there and I run them as a hybrid agile team together with the nearshore team. So maybe future processing in an example. And so you might have developers and QAs basically sitting on both sides of the table. A key advantage in terms of the hybrid team for me is, again, you can get up and running much quicker, because if you've got a core team who already knows the business domain, they know the current technology, you're essentially supplementing that team with additional nearshore resources. they're running their Scrum processes together, they're on the stand-ups together. So knowledge transfers very quickly. It also then starts to engender more trust within the between the two organizations, and you understand what the implications of delivery are.
Sounds like a right fit for a company that has a small IT team in-house and is not keen on expanding that a lot.
Yeah.
But is in need of scale or skills.
Exactly. For me, the situation is, the reasons you might want to expand using a hybrid team is you've got that core internal competency. You need to scale it very quickly because you've won some contract or something. So you go to the nearshore partner, you supplement your team. It gets access to skills that might be in short supply where you're based. You get the flexibility of, once the project's delivered, you might be able to flex the size of the team again. Another key advantage is that if you're an organization that's building, that a key portion of your IT process is about building intellectual property internally, there's that advantage as well, because your core team can continue to maintain your intellectual property with this expanded capability.
That's it, yeah.
But, when investors start looking at your organization and they say, well, hold on, you've outsourced all of your development. Yeah, you haven't. You've still got your core team who can own your IP. So.
Plus, with the nearshore bit, there's also this advantage of sharing the time zone, you can easily travel, work together, do some pair programming, and etc.
Well, that's exactly why I tend to prefer a nearshoring model rather than a conventional sort of outsource. So for me, the idea that I can hop on a plane and 2 hours later I'm at the location, or any member of my team. Obviously, the same is true in reverse, is we can get members of the team traveling over to the UK, maybe you're having joint client workshops, etc.
At the beginning of our conversation, you've mentioned this particular way of operations called pain share, gain share. Could you describe that one?
Yeah, so pain share, gain share is where both parties have got something to win and lose based on the success or not of the delivery. So where might it work? You as a client, you might have an idea for a new product that's maybe aligned to your existing product, but you don't have enough budget to be able to deliver the project in its entirety.
Yeah.
Finding an outsource partner who's willing to contribute towards the cost of that, maybe by some sort of a discount structure against their normal rate, etc., can make a difference to achieving that budget. The idea then being that once the product sells, the outsource partner shares in the benefit. So you're basically paying them in arrears when the product eventually is commercially successful for yourself. Fundamentally, it will require both organizations to wholeheartedly believe in the product, believe in the fact that it does have commercial opportunities. It could be that what you're doing is you could be leveraging the supplier's client base and selling your product to your supplier's client base.
Yeah.
It's not always a cash or discount investment that's going in. And the other facet there is it does need parties who believe in each other as well and aren't commercially greedy and wanting everything to themselves. You're willing to share the benefits.
That's the very important part, and although, of course, there's a significant amount of risk involved, which is shared, that might be a win-win situation. But what you've mentioned is, the very important part you've mentioned is that there's this specific relation that needs to be a foundation of this sort of engagement model. How do you get there with a simply IT partner? How do you go from negotiating fixed price / time and materials to let's do something together? How can you build that sort of relation?
It takes some time. I think the key thing is the gain share, pain share is only really going to work where there is existing trust in place. So you've probably had an existing relationship, either it's been that nearshoring or a fixed price relationship where both of you have learned how the other business operates. You've both got some of that business domain knowledge and understanding the market factors and so on related to this product. So typically, I wouldn't expect a gain share, pain share model to work as a brand new relationship. You might be 2 or 3 years in.
Well, it sounds like something that both the buying and the supplying party should move toward as a nice goal to achieve. And sounds also like something that's on the very opposite to the to what we started with the traditional body leasing, outstaffing, augmenting, because there's these two approaches, and I'm keen on understanding your point of view. Can you also see that in the industry that it's moving toward more human-centric ways of cooperations, from simply transaction-based to more partnership-based, from low value to high value? But is it that black and white, or is it actually happening? And if yes, then is it that black and white?
There seems to still be a lot of organizations who are still doing the traditional
Which is
sort of body leasing.
nothing bad in it, of course.
Yeah, and I think it'll work for certain organizations, and it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're an organization who wants ultimate control of the individuals who will be working for you, and you want to make sort of the CV-based decision on, these are the skill sets I want, and I want to be seeing the CVs, and I want to approve all the hiring, and I want full control of what the salaries, etc. are, then the body leasing model sort of tends to work. Yeah. And you know that you're paying an admin fee to essentially have a remote HR stroke recruitment function. On the flip side, for me, having an organization who culturally is building up an identity within their team, people who know how to work together. You don't have to build the team relationships after hiring the people. These are you're essentially getting teams of people who know how to work together. They've got established practices. There's sort of a great culture and so on. For me, there's a big win in that, because fundamentally, having high performing teams takes time. It doesn't just happen instantly from hiring
overnight.
10 bodies and suddenly they're a good team.
So from your perspective, an expert whose bread and butter is definitely outsourcing and different engagement models, what would be your top 3 tips for a company that's considering moving towards partnering with an IT provider when it comes to engagement models?
I think the key thing is, to start with, you need to understand those factors of, what's important to you from a budgetary perspective. Is it having a definitive budget, or is it that it's a bit more flexible and you need to hit the ground running first? You then need to also think about, how do you see this working culturally in terms of your organization? Do you see this truly as a partnership, or is it just a supplier where you just you're going to specify, I want X, Y, Z, and they've just got to deliver? You need to think through those different questions and then go and choose yourself an IT partner who matches those characteristics. Budget, how you wish to engage with them. What do you want? Do you want a collaborative approach, or do you just want them to do what you say, etc.?
Thank you. I really enjoyed that one. That was very interesting and very informative. And thank you, our viewers, for watching this episode of IT Leadership Insights by Future Processing. If you found it useful, please don't hesitate to like it and share it, and please do drop us a note if you'd like to have a different topic covered in another episode of IT Leadership Insights. Thank you.